now ready to begin today's discussion, The Future of Campus Commerce, and I will turn it over to your moderator, Tom Gavin. Tom?
Thank you so much. I will be host for today. I have over 12 years of experience developing ROI models for institutions so they can make data-driven solutions for payment strategies. I'm an expert, and for those of you who know me, I like to have fun whether I'm on the fairway or in the boardroom. I'm pleased to introduce our panelists for today's session. We have experts from across product information, security, cloud solutions, and will share their thoughts and insights on the future of campus commerce. Our first panelist, Marc, has over 30 years of experience in consumer lending and payment solutions for financial institutions and large merchants. Prior to coming to ACI, Marc led North American retail card businesses at TD Bank. He was with ACI Worldwide for 3 years and has played an instrumental role in the development of ACI's Customer Communication Management platform. The platform provides colleges and universities with targeted multi-channel communication delivery with integrated payment services. Also, Freddie, who has over 20 years of cyber and information security experience. Prior to joining ACI, Freddie was a chief security officer of an application service provider specializing in internet banking, payment, and web hosting. He has been at ACI for more than 15 years and manages threat intelligence and consulting services for ACI's Global Information Security Department. Reports directly to ACI's Chief Information Security Officer. And thus is Marullo from Ellucian. Has 20 years of information technology management experience. He has been at Ellucian for more than 12 years and is responsible for the conceptualizing, design, feature, functionality specifications, and solutions for cloud services products by Ellucian. We have an agenda for you today. We'll cover the Omni-Channel experience, region, the future of campus commerce, fast payments, security threats, the move cloud, and higher ed meetup. Marc, let's see you. Marc, I can't hear you.
That's helpful. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marc Sczesnak. I work in the product management organization here at ACI. Here at ACI, we periodically refresh our benchmark research study not to learn what our customers want in new payment products, but also to help us drive our strategic and tactical action plans. See on screen are some of the results from our benchmark study with Ovum. The results of the research paper will be available in May, and we can host a session at that time that can dive deeper into the results. What we need to take notice of is what are many of your peers thinking are key takes and takeaways in terms of how they want to be moving forward. And your students are very technologically savvy. They have their mobile phones. They want to do everything on their mobile phones. They're tethered to their mobile phones. So it's not surprising that a number of you are either in the development of optimizing billings and practices and communications to mobile technology, or you're planning to do it in the future. Almost 78% of those surveyed found it to be a very meaningful activity. Also, optimization to the desktop came in at number 2. So there are users that feel comfortable using this in the web environment and online in their computers to handle a lot of their ERP-related transactions. All targeted customer offers and rewards, and some of the benefits with a customer communication management system is that you have the ability of targeting specific messages to specific groups of customers that you can define, or students that you can define. And last, we have something which we call a push email technology, which is new and interesting, where instead of requiring someone to come into your site to log to receive that bill, you can push a secure email out, and in such a manner they can open an attachment, validate themselves by putting in their password, and then the bill would be delivered directly to the student or the authorized user. Interrogate the bill and click another link to make the payment happen. So again, a lot of these technologies are about enhancing your customer's experience or your students' experiences, and I know it's very important to a number of you in terms of what you're looking to do. I'm just going to go back to Tom here, where he's going to take you through a couple of these other items here as well.
And it really looks like the top initiatives of the universities all center around the customer communication management. Next few talk about the automation of debt collection. So that communication management and the revamped virtual collection agent platforms, it's also interesting to note how the tech bill and notification are less desirable features because students want more notification. They want the information needed at that moment to make a decision and act upon. Well, so I think you have a daughter at school that's a prime example of this, Marc.
Yeah, Tom, and she's one that very happy with the system being able to tell Dad that it's time to make the payment happen, but it's really the notification that provides the peace of mind and knowing that the appropriate notifications are being distributed to those who need to take care of the business.
It's like you mentioned, and the fact that it's that frictionless experience where they don't have to go and log into anything. They simply receive the information they need, and they can act upon it. So how does this translate into the future of eCommerce?
Well, again, based on our benchmark research, working with colleges and university clients and prospects, we developed personas for various users of the system. And what a persona is we try to understand the types of people that would be using the system. So it would be students. It might be international students that would have specific needs. It would be administrators at the school. It would be people who work for the administrators that have to tend to the system, as well as parents as authorized users, and again, trying to understand specific needs and requirements of each one of these various groups. Some of the things that we learned is that, they want us to provide a system that can kind of deal with the entire campus ecosystem. So it's not just about, tuning fees, but on-campus activities. It's about, ticketing for events. It's about, if I'm having struggles to make that hit the big nut, spreading those payments out over 4 or 6 months to be able to make them happen. You said, Tom, about delinquent resolution. So again, is there a way that a seamlessly integrated solution can bring all of these pieces to bear for the different personas, and do it in such a way that it can be, the navigation can be very intuitive and easy for one to move through the different aspects of the program. Also, it needs to be responsive in its design. So if someone wants to interact with your school with a web experience, a tablet experience, or a mobile experience, to be able to output the content and deliver it in a manner that meets the needs of those different types of forms.
It seems like today's student, or the millennials, if you will, they require not only that frictionless experience, but they also require real-time information. I know with payment plan, it's very important that it is able to present the balance in real time, as well as to pull over the financial aid. Also, there's a lot of deadlines that come in the higher education arena, so it's so important that the system updates the ERP system in real time from the portal.
And a number of the things that we're doing with our partners at Ellucian is able to provide that real-time integration with their ERP system to the needs of your students. So an example, a student get a bill mid-month, and his financial aid or his loans have not, come in and posted against his account, he knows that, say by the month, he needs to make the payment. He's scrambling, trying to get all that money together to make the payment happen. And walks in at the end of the month, 2 days maybe before it's due, and see a refreshed screen, because we're going to get real-time information from the ERP system that would say, oh, my student loan and my grants have come in and posted. I $5,000, I only owe $1,500. Make the payment for the $1,500, which is great for him. It is great for the college and the university because they don't have disbursements that they need to push back out to that student for overpayments.
That's where that real-time integration comes into play so much, not only when they're signing up, but as they're going through that and the financial aid pieces are hitting their account and changing that balance. I envision a system that will allow a student, once they go in and sign into their ERP system, to go off to the portal. At that point, they could go ahead and scan the card, set up their e-wallet, set up their proxy integration, and also with the payment plan piece, sign up for that in case their financial aid doesn't hit in time for the due date. It's really, just a futuristic world, and you can see that by this survey, close to 90% of the higher ed executives interviewed want that better, stronger integration, and something like that should be a type of solution they could really enjoy.
You're right, and it's the integration of these things that really can be helpful. So, ACI has a number of solutions. You mentioned the virtual collection agent. You mentioned our customer communication management platform, and those is for our payments. But these will all be seamlessly integrated to provide a great experience for your students.
Thank you, Mark. And it looks like it's time for our first audience poll. And the question today is, what is your biggest challenge in offering new billing and payment options? Please, quick second to make your selection. 10 seconds. Please submit your questions as you can. The survey responses in just a second. I know one of the poll questions or choices was international payments. And Mark, I know we've been doing a lot of work in Canada to set up the Interac Debit. You mentioned, the need for international payments prior, and it ranked high on the poll survey as I'm kind of looking at it right now. What is the future of international payments?
The world is becoming a smaller place, and lots of folks are seeking to come to the United States to, better themselves and get a great education. It's a great source of premium revenue for our colleges and universities. Recent surveys that I've been able to ascertain indicate that upwards of like 450,000 Chinese students who study in the United States every year. So what we need to do is we need to, again, understand the needs of your customers and deliver solutions that take friction out and make it simpler for them to do the things that they need to do. So one things we're doing now, we've started to launch a capability in Canada where our Canadian schools, Ellucian, can use Interac Debit as a means to make a payment. In Canada, there are really 5 major financial institutions that drive about 90% of the market, and they have their own way of clearing their cards amongst themselves and they've created a product called Interac. So they're offering that as a payment option. There's a subsidiary at ACI called Payon, which is a gateway for a number of different regional payment types. And we're going to be doing some further integration work with Payon, and hopefully we'll be bringing you additional payment brands such as an Alipay, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Android Pay, Union Pay. Your international students will have a way of using their regional payment brands to be able to make those payments with you. We're looking to add a bank capability as well, where we can draft funds from the student's account and have a very transparent experience for them, where we can demonstrate that here's what it will cost you in your local currency to make the U.S. dollar payment, and create the FX transaction to make a payment post to your college's ledger in U.S. dollars.
So much. It's important to note that the U.S. economy is much different as far as how we make payments than around the world. Most of the countries around the world utilize their own debit network, and I'm familiar with the Interac in Canada and UnionPay in China. But what is faster payments?
That's a question, Tom, and that's something that's coming, and ACI has been very much involved in delivering it around the world. We have our software driving immediate payments in many parts of the world. Many probably see the ads starting to pop up here in the United States for something called Zelle. And what faster payments or immediate payments are all about, it's taking money directly out of one account and moving into another in real time. So if you have a student and it's he has to get that payment into you in order to register for classes, and his back is up against it, if you work with someone like us who could provide an immediate payment capability, that's an option where they could go in and draft the money right account and have it deposited directly into the treasury account at your school and be funded immediately. Again, you see it for people using it for trends that can move money to individuals as a person-to-person type of transaction. Use case might be your son or daughter is stranded on the side of the road. They don't have any cash. The tow truck is coming. You can wire or use immediate payments to put the money right into their account, so that when the tow truck driver shows up, swipe debit card and he's taken care of. So it's got a lot of great capabilities. It's been very well received in other parts of the world, the United Kingdom being one of them. It is something coming. It's something you should have on your roadmap in terms of products and services you might want to be delivering over time.
Yeah, about the U.S. being kind of a different market. And, we have well over 100 public banks, and you look at China, who only has 5 publicly owned banks. I can see why it takes a little bit longer for something like this to take shape in the United States. But it sounds like if it immediately pulls that money from my checking account, I no longer will need to balance that thing.
True. And it's something that we're looking to be able to take off around 2020. But the on-ramps and things are being built now, and ACI is right in the middle of being able to provide those on-ramps to smaller financial institutions, higher education institutions, and merchants in the U.S. and around the world.
Thanks, Mark. Look, we're close to another poll question. I give the results from the first one. The biggest challenge in offering new bill and paying solutions was a budget. The second was organizational alignment. Number 3 was security and compliance. And then lastly was international payment acceptance. So it's time for another poll-asked question. How do you plan to improve payment security? Go a quick second to answer the question on the right of your screen. Results to that in just a second. As we move through our presentation today, we wanted to do some insights on data stolen from institutions. Part of the survey of higher education executives, 21% of institutions had paid data stolen in the past 12 months, while 69% believe the organization is at greater risk of data security breach now than just 12 months ago. And I find that very true in today's world. As much as the security hacks are increasing and becoming more relevant, at this time, let's bring in Freddie Glenn from ACI to talk about security. Freddie?
Good evening. My name is Freddie Glenn. I work in ACI's Global Information Security Department. Today, I want to cover some of the 2017 security statistics which focus on cybersecurity threats which target end users. From the 2017 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, there were 5% of phishing attacks that led to a breach that were software installation. 1% of the hacking-related breaches leveraged stolen and or weak passwords. 60% of malware was installed via malicious email attachments.
Freddie, can you provide some more information on phishing and some recommendations on conducting phishing exercises?
Absolutely. There are many forms of phishing. Phishing attacks may target users via email, text, social media, or other forms of communication. Some common types of phishing include attempting to trick a user into providing login information, clicking on a link which redirects the user to a site by an insertion of a malicious script or file, or requesting the user to call a phone number which is not the organizations such as a bank, the IRS, or even the FBI. Many phishing will attempt to source from a person of high authority, like a CEO, FBI, or IRS. Phishing awareness is an excellent exercise to educate your users and help you get informed of the latest types of phishing attacks. It is important to ongoing employee phishing education, malicious attachments detection, malicious links, and activity designed to capture login data. On account, I recommend that you host cybersecurity lunch and learns and bring local security experts, including law enforcement or certain security vendors.
And thanks for not telling me about phishing. I don't know what I was saying there. So that's some good information about phishing exercises. I know that at ACI you guys conduct various emails that you'll send out that are basically a phishing type email that you reward individuals for providing that information back to you. But while I know that password strength is very important, I feel most attacks come through the email inbox.
I agree with that. Most attacks that target users, like passwords, are sent to the user's email or social media. Others may target a specific application. Password attacks, password controls that I recommend include restricting administrative rights, using strong passwords with complexity requirements, and passwords that change every 90 days at a minimum, and also ensure that your passwords cannot easily be found in a dictionary. And these are settings that can be set up within the your local directory policies, group policies. I would recommend account lockouts to prevent brute force password attacks. Account lockouts can set to be permanent, or they can be temporary depending on the application. Malware may also include attacks to password files or scripts that attempt to brute force an application. Most phishing attacks are attempting to use the user's current credentials. Again, strict administrative rights, use strong passwords and complexity requirements, and again, enforce your changes at least every 90 days. I absolutely recommend 4 to 5 days to be even stronger.
Thanks, Freddie. I just wanted to give the results to the poll real quick, and then we'll continue on. How do you plan to move security forward? Number 1 result was move to the cloud. Number 2 is limit where we transmit data. Number 3 was speak with secure experts. And S was the P2PE point-of-point encryption, which ACI is a validated provider. You also mentioned malware. Can you put some example recommendations of what our audience can do to reduce the threats of malware?
There are multiple types of malware, including viruses, worms, Trojan horses, ransomware, spyware, adware, and airware. All malware can take the form of executable code, scripts, active content, and other software. includes scanning email systems for malware attachments and malicious scripts, deploy network malware detection software or appliances to detect malware on your network, servers, workstations, and of course your internet browsing history, malware downloads and uploads.
Freddie, you have a great background and a lot of information related to this topic. Are there some go-to resources that you like to stay in touch with and look at periodically, or periodicals that you read?
Yes, several sources of intelligence. We actually receive direct alerts from our security vendors. We also use information from InfraGard, US CERT, NIST, and FSISAC, which is also known as the Financial Services Information Sharing and Analysis Center. I also like security news sites like securityweek.com. There are others, but that is one of my primary reads. I recommend making sure that your information security program is based on industry security standards. Some of the industry standards include the Center for Internet Security, also known as CIS, the National Institution of Standards and Technology, also known as NIST, and the National Organization for Standardization, or also known as ISO. Other good sources include SANS and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
Thanks. That's great information. I know a lot of these threats and cyber attacks and ransomware, they really seem to keep presidents and CEOs up at night. If you're reading some of this information, it could help them get some sleep. I know one of the reasons it's also very important these days and becoming very popular as we look at ways to attack that is move to the cloud. And it's going to bring in Sal from Ellucian to talk about security benefits of moving to the cloud. Sal?
Hi, Tom. The cloud does have a lot of benefits relative to security, and the Ellucian Cloud specifically offers kind of turnkey solutions that are tailored for higher education. Right? Ellucian's been providing cloud solutions for over 12 years, so we're very familiar, with our institutions, what they need and what's needed in the marketplace. In fact, Ellucian prides itself on providing technology solutions that remove barriers, right? That's what we've been talking about this whole half hour here. It helps higher education institutions. It's focused for over 4 years on that, and with over 18 million students in 50 countries around the world, happy to discuss some of the things that I've seen. So thanks, Tom.
Look at the survey, and it indicates that 91% do expect the cloud to lower total cost of ownership. What other factors that institutes may also need to consider?
Yeah, well, a lot of the things that Freddie had just mentioned, and you kind of yet alluded to there, is like, there's those phishing attacks, those malware concerns, and really it just becomes more challenging year over year, both practically and financially, to add new capabilities to keep pace with all these evolving threats. For example, you take real-time intrusion detection. It's critical. Institutions need it to protect their data, protect their students, but many institutions still lack this technology, and it's even so challenging when you look at limited resources and how do you prioritize threats and investments. There is the tools like you mentioned earlier, the malware. You're susceptible if you're running inadequate or outdated technology. Lack of awareness is a big thing. You heard about education before, and you combine that with limited resources, along with higher education's commitment to open exchange of ideas. It could become problematic. So, Ellucian Cloud is worked on ways to improve that. Kind of ways we do that is really about investing in the right tools. And so when you look at a cloud provider, a cloud solution, is it automating that scanning, that protection, things really at scale were not sometimes cost prohibitive to do on an individual institutional basis. But absolute musts are tools to take care of that vulnerability management, those patch management, and that alerting. The next part really comes to with having strong policies. Like, are you compliant with some of the controls we just heard about, like with NIST, SOC reporting, or ISO reporting? These are kind of international standards. There's some coming out of the EU, the General Data Protection Regulation. So strong policies and aligning to that really makes sure you're doing the right thing for your institution and your students. And one of the nice things with Ellucian, because we are focused on higher ed, keep our ear to the ground to know what's evolving. So if you think about things that have recently come out with the federal student aid cybersecurity compliance, where the federal government is saying, hey, if you're getting federal funds, we need to make sure that you are, you're properly protecting that student data, and that's putting an increased burden on institutions. And like I mentioned, that General Data Protection Regulation out of the EU, that's been for a couple of years, but they're going to start enforcing it in May of 2018. So these are a lot of controls that we're intimately familiar with, but Ellucian can deliver for its customers.
Seems like a lot of the things you mentioned, Sal, are they're hard to monetize. And how do you put a price on security, things that you hope you'll never have to need? But there's obviously ongoing cost if a breach ever did happen. Can you talk a little bit about how the cloud really does protect you long term, as well as the immediately?
Absolutely. I mean, the opportunity cost is huge, especially when we look at higher education. Just to ensure of involved, the students, and the brand reputation. So, it's interesting. Damage to an institution's brand is a multi-year opportunity cost. Losing freshmen because there was a data breach or you made the headlines for all the wrong reasons, and it impacts your freshman enrollment. You might think about that as kind of like a one-year thing, but it's not, right? Declining enrollment or impact to your freshman class rolls over, and it becomes a multi-year problem. So it's not just about investing in the right tools, investing in the right resources, but when that occurs, it's really just a higher opportunity cost, because that lost freshman is a lost sophomore. It affects the institution's graduation rates, because now you've got less graduates. But ultimately, you see it on the back end, where there's less alumni, and now you're affecting the advancement offices and alumni giving. So again, that one that crossroads, say, hey, what do I prioritize in investment in security and protecting? And if we don't, and there's impact to the institution and that brand awareness, now what we're seeing is that's hard to recover. It's hard to get back those students that have a choice and choose to go to maybe a more secure institution. So.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say it's always better to invest a little more than you had planned, opposed to less than you should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there some additional things you have as far as at eLive, if anyone is attending, that you could kind of point out to help them down that particular direction?
Yeah, absolutely. Ellucian Live is right around the corner. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you there. And a couple of sessions I highlighted, there's a ton of sessions. We're very excited to be communicating some of our cloud details and offerings. And so some of the key ones relative to this conversation are really here on the screen, like things like, that Ethos platform. How do we make sure those payments are moving in and out of the environment in a secure way? Well, Ethos and Ethos security is a key factor in that, and I'm happy to say ACI is working closely with that, making that data can move back and forth real time in a secure manner. Also, breaking down some of the cloud jargon, right? Like we were talking about phishing earlier, but also there's a lot of cloud terminology, SaaS or private cloud or hosted or, multi-tenancy, things like that. So we have a lot of sessions here up on the screen. If you attend them all, that'd be great, but these would really give a cross-cut and a deeper dive into what institutions can expect and should look for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Al. It's just good information. Like you said, it's kind of a buzzword out there, but there's a lot of other things, underneath the cloud that you really need to take a look at. It looks like we do have some time for some questions, and we'll get those coming in as we speak. And Sal, while you're talking, it looks like I have a good one for you, and it's transitioning to the Ellucian cloud. What can I do to prepare?
Yeah, good question. So we get this a lot, right? So your preparation is key. It's an important part of the step, and it really begins with understanding what applications are in scope, right? Like what talking to the ERP or the student data, and understanding, was any of that stuff modified or otherwise configured outside of the vendor guidelines, right? And sometimes institutional need drove that. But having that in place, that customized or non-standard code can definitely limit or delay a transition to the cloud. And there's benefits to going to the cloud, and the last thing you want to do is kind of delay that. And so the nice part about, kind of just relevant is the nice part about API, you got an Ellucian partner. You're working with that ethos integration. And so ultimately, kind of to simplify, what can I do to prepare, is really considering using those vendors or partners that are tightly integrated, because ultimately it makes it faster, more comprehensive, and an easy-to-deploy solution. So, good question.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And, Marc, I think I have a question for you. Can you explain the customer communication management? How does school use it?
Thanks. Customer communication management is something that you can use to have more of an engagement with your students. So the system basically can take information from multiple sources, and it has a rules-based engine and a database. So you can make determinations on what type of messages you want to deliver to your students. So, for instance, if one of the attributes in the database is, the class, are they a freshman, junior, sophomore, senior, as your states go out, you can have messages that are meaningful to any one of those specific groups. If it's, students that need having a challenge making a payment, and you maybe want to suggest to them that they look at a payment plan, there'd be an option for you, again, to take a set of attributes to make a determination that, gee, we should offer the student an opportunity for a payment plan. That statement is delivered, and there's the information, the banner ad for the payment plan, and they can just click on it and go right in and apply for the payment plan, and that eliminates the issue for that student. You've provided a meaningful communication to them and a solution to their potential problem. So can take a lot of your communications that are currently being done with snail mail and are costing you a lot of money in terms of paper and postage, and to the extent that your students are willing to take those communications digitally, and that your millennials want everything digitally, that enables you to do that. So it's a way where I think you can deliver a great customer experience, you can lower your cost, and you have some more meaningful interactions with your students to help have you get a better level of satisfaction with the service.
Marc, I do think it, as you mentioned, being intuitive, it can function with products like the virtual collection agent, as students may perhaps be coming late or on a particular payment. The eBill can even add a link to ask them to sign up for the virtual collection agent. So there's a lot of things it can do, and I think the ability for the student to select their best form of payment being sent to their phone, a text, or those type of things really makes it a cool tool, not only for the school to utilize communication, but also for the students to read that information.
Exactly.
a couple. Yeah, we got time for a couple more questions, and actually one just popped up related specifically to that, Mark. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Official payments offering eBill, eFund, and eCommerce solutions for student experience improvement, and I think this is right up the alley of the communication management tool. Can you talk a little bit about those three things and the ability and where they're at with ACI?
Again, I think the initial theme of what you saw is Camp Commerce solution. So, ACI has developed a number of partnerships with systems that might be supporting your institution. So, for instance, if you use a specific housing vendor, or if there are donations that you're doing or things of that nature. Again, we have an ability to either work with folks that you've got, or you can leverage the solutions that we've pulled together. Deliver kind of an integrated treasury management type of solution with you, so that we can provide reporting and the like that would have all information from all of the third parties, and also enable you to have kind of what I would refer to as the one throat to choke, where it's dealing with any of your campus payment needs, be it donations, be it, board tuition and fees, events. Summertime, you might have summer programs for students come to your university. Even high school kids can come for a couple of weeks and get an early feel for the college experience. Looking to basically drive that, and we're in this right now of building out our solution, and we're hoping to be able to have that in time for the spring of next year.
I'll take that one step further as far as that Omni-type solution. ACI does act as the commerce gateway as well as the processor, and they typically combine those two pieces into a transitional or transactional-based offering. So please contact your ACI rep to learn more about how it can help be that omni-channel for your entire and merchant experience. Well, I think we're wrapping up our presentation today. I want to thank everyone so much for attending. Just a couple shout-outs, if you will. For those of you attending Ellucian Live in San Diego, we look forward to meeting with you. And please make sure you stop by booth 619 and make it one of your first stops to pick up your Find Your Match blinking button, and make it your armband for our Higher Ed Meetup VIP event. And be sure to attend one of our conference sessions or to attend one of our in-booth demos. Thanks, Sal, for attending from Ellucian. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. We're one of your strategic partners, and we enjoy the relationship that we have with you. Again, there will be a quick survey after this, a poll survey, and then as you exit the website today, there'll be a survey, and that really helps us to plan for feedback for future webinars. Again, thank you so much, and goodbye.